Jumping to Iran, there's obviously a big situation earlier this week, right before the State of the Union. What do you think about that situation? And as president, if you were president, would you have done anything differently?
You know, I think it's insulting, first, that Iran picked up our soldiers, and then, two, that they paraded them as sort of pawns and puppets for their regime. Goes against the Geneva Convention. The Geneva Convention says you're not supposed to use prisoners of war in that way. You're not supposed to film them, ridicule them, you know, have them do fake confessions. So it makes me suspicious of Iran's intentions. Do they really want to be part of the civilized world? Are they going to be honest in their agreement as we move forward? It's part of the reason why I ended up voting against the Iranian agreement. While I do want negotiations, and I think a negotiated settlement to get rid of their nuclear weapons would be good, I worry, you know, will they comply? And I thought if we would have kept the sanctions on and gradually taken them off over a several-year period as we saw their compliance, they would have a better chance that they would comply. They're getting very close now to getting their money. When they get their money, the question is, will they be as quick to comply, or will their behavior get worse again? So it does concern me, particularly when they play games like this.
As president, though, a lot of conservatives assailed the president in the past week. Would you have done anything specifically different in that kind of situation?
I don't think there is, other than that we shouldn't, say that they were, doing the best behavior and they were on there. But, I think complimenting them too much was something the president made a mistake in. But I also think conservatives sometimes get alarmed, oh, the president did it, so we got to yell at the president. You know what I mean? It becomes this reflexive thing that isn't necessarily constructive either. I think that in the end it turned out for the best that they did come back very quickly. So maybe that's a step in the right direction, but it was also insulting the way our soldiers were treated.
And now that we have our soldiers back, is there anything that you would do to, assert U.S. dominance in that region? Or
I think the main thing is with the Iranian agreement, we have it now. I was opposed to it, but we do have it. I think the main thing is verifying and ensuring that they do adhere to it. So that's going to take some police and detective work, but we do have to be strong in monitoring to make sure that they adhere to the agreement.
Gotcha. Jumping now to Cruz, you have said that that there's legal uncertainty whether he is qualified to hold the office of the presidency. Given that, and given that it will probably be challenged in the courts, do you think he is a viable nominee for the GOP?
Well, I think the Democrats will challenge his eligibility, and I think he may well sustain that, but it hasn't been decided, and it will be extraordinary to have somebody as a nominee or president who wasn't born in the United States. In fact, I think it would be the first time we've ever had anything like that. Many people have believed that natural-born citizen means you have to be born in that country. Above and beyond that, whether or not he can get to the presidency, from my political point of view, I think there are certain philosophic questions that trouble me. Number one would be that I've been a big advocate of saying the government shouldn't collect our phone records. In one of the recent debates, he said that he voted for reform to allow the government to collect more of our cell phone records so they could get 100% of our cell phone records. That bothers me and I think is a problem. On things like giving trade authority to the president, he was really for it, wrote an op-ed with Paul Ryan, now he's against it. So I think there's been a little bit of inconsistency back and forth on what he's for. With regard to general foreign policy, I think making the sand glow through carpet bombing in the Middle East may create more terrorists than it kills. We do have to defend ourselves, and that does mean killing the enemy. But if you kill the enemy by mass bombing of cities, a lot of innocent people die, and that creates relatives and extended relatives and hundreds of years of animosity, and it doesn't go away easily. So I don't think indiscriminate bombing or carpet bombing of it is a good idea.
So you're saying that his strategy might actually, empower the Islamic State?
Might backfire, yeah, it could well backfire. And so I have supported air support over there. I've supported arming the Kurds. I've supported trying to get our NATO allies like Turkey to get more involved over there. And I think I've different from some in the sense that I think part of an agreement over there is to get a ceasefire with Syria, because I think getting Syria a unified front instead of three different fronts of war there would be helpful. Nothing's going to come easy, but I think that ultimately defeating this radical aberration of Sunni Islam is going to have to come from Arab boots on the ground. I don't think they're going to accept victory from us. We can defeat them, but then they're going to accept 1,000 American soldiers in Tikrit. They're just not going to ever. We need somebody who lives in Tikrit to rise up, be the chieftain, and we can help them. but it can't be American troops because they're just never going to accept. It just means another generation of people will slither off and come back and put bombs under our Humvees.
Okay, jumping back to the Cruz thing, the politics part, do you think you're raising questions, you know, saying it's the first time that possibly someone born outside the United States would serve as president? Do you think it would be a smart move, given that the Democrats may challenge this and there is a maybe slight chance that, you know, they rule against Cruz? Do you think it'd be smart for the GOP to nominate someone with this, like Donald Trump would say, hanging over their head?
I don't know the answer to that. I just know that it's a question that the Democrats will challenge him on, and it's probably better to be facing and answering that challenge now than it would be in October or November. See, all it's going to take is one Secretary of State from a Democrat state to say we're not going to put him on the ballot. And then it goes to the Supreme Court. So I have a feeling that that will happen. Things get very partisan once a presidential race kind of heightens up. So I can see how, and if it happens to be a state that could go either way, an Ohio, a Wisconsin, a New Hampshire, that could be a real problem.
On Donald Trump, you had just said a second ago that you view him and Hillary Clinton as equally despicable for different reasons, but equally despicable. If he is the nominee, will you support his campaign and pledge to vote for him?
My first hope is that he's not the nominee, and I'm going to do everything I can that I would be the nominee. And I don't think it'd be good for the party or the country. I think his sense of narcissism, of believing that if he were just all powerful, he's so rich that he must be smart, that he can fix everything. I fear that, and it really goes against a lot of the tradition of the conservative movement. In the conservative movement, or the limited government movement, we've often felt like we want to limit how much power goes to the federal government, limit how much power goes to any one individual, because we believe, as Lord Acton said, that power corrupts and that absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so I don't really want to give Donald Trump the power to fix things, because I'm worried that once you give power to somebody, sometimes goes to their head and they become an authoritarian in a way that may not be good for freedom.
So it seems like you would not support him. You know, you're saying he might become an authoritarian.
It would be difficult, but I have agreed to support the nominee. Just hopeful it's not him.
Gotcha. Jumping to Iowa, you've said that, you know, you have 1,000 precinct captains, right?
Right.
In Iowa, and you're hoping to do well. How well are you hoping to do?
You know, I grew up competing in sports, swimming, and competing in college. We never went in to get, you know, third place or something.
So you're hoping to win it?
Absolutely. It only takes probably about 30,000 votes to win in Iowa. Our goal is to get 10,000 students out. We're working very hard to organize the student population. We're hoping to get 10,000 independents out, and then 10,000 Liberty Republicans. We put all three of those together. We think it's enough to win. And Iowa is about more than polling. Iowa is about your ground game. Can you get people out? And people in the know that have seen our ground game, I think, believe that it rivals any of the other candidates.
Okay. This is kind of jumping topics again, and you've been big on the internet freedom issue of things, and wanting to make sure that the government doesn't, I think you used the word, extend their tentacles over the internet. In 50 years, just kind of looking forward, do you think that the internet will remain a free and vibrant place, or do you think that the government will have, at this point, you know, implemented regulations and rules that hinder that?
You know, my hope is that the internet does stay free and vibrant. Over the last decade or two, there haven't been many industries that can really open up and create as many jobs as the internet has. And one of the reasons was that the older industries were all heavily regulated. Healthcare, banking, railroads, airplanes, all heavily regulated. Internet came out of nothing, de novo. And as it did, there were no regulations, so it sprouted and grew like crazy. It would be a real mistake to get the government involved in it, to get the government regulating it or taxing it. So I've been one of the leaders saying, don't tax the internet, don't regulate the internet, let's leave it free. Whether that'll sustain for 20 or 30 years, the history of most democracies have unfortunately been to strangle and add new regulations to business. But if we're smart, we will keep the internet free.
Okay.